Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Block, presented by Around the Block Sports Network. We're back with another episode here, and we're going to talk mainly hockey once again with Sam. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. This week we have a lot to discuss. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. Especially now that we're doing these episodes twice a week, we can stay fresh on each topic, which is huge.
hmm
And we're going to kind of continue what we did on the last episode, which was going through our old season predictions and looking at the divisions. So last week, I believe we did the Atlantic, and now we're heading over to the Metropolitan. And this is a really interesting one to look at because we were kind of off on some of them, but I'll bring up the standings right now. These are the current standings. Uh, obviously we have Carolina ahead, which we kind of had Carolina in the top three, I believe, looking at it before the season started. But we're going to start down at the bottom. So the original list that Sam came up consisted of from worst to first: Philadelphia, New York Islanders, New Jersey Devils, Washington, Columbus, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, and Carolina. So let's start it off right at the bottom. You had Philly at 8. They're not too far from the 8 spot, but it's a shocker. It's Columbus. And this was just a really shocking to see. Obviously, a lot of offseason moves, especially bringing in Johnny Gaudreau. Thought this was going to be a really good place for him to take this organization to the next level. They were always kind of the mid-pack team, but it seems like they're just struggling left and right. So realistically, buddy, what do you think's going wrong here? Why is Columbus at the bottom?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, I think, because we looked at their top six before the year started, and we thought it was a really strong top six, especially now anchored with someone like Johnny Gaudreau. But if you look at how they're performing, it looks terrible. All their dudes, except maybe Johnny Gaudreau, have grossly underperformed. Their defense is pretty much nothing but a bunch of traffic cones, and their goaltending just hasn't been up to snuff. So everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong for them, and I think that's illustrated in their point distribution. You have Johnny Gaudreau, who's point per game, which is good, but as a primary playmaker, he has no one to set up. I mean, Boone Jenner's been okay. Jack Roslovic, fine, another playmaker. Guys like Line have been in and out, and they just haven't been scoring goals.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to touch up what you just said there and mentioning Patrick Laine. I mean, that's a huge loss right there. You see his stats for the season so far in 21 games. I believe he's got 18 points. I mean, not bad. Obviously, not the points per game that Patrick Laine would like to have and that we would expect. But you got to get him in the lineup if you want this team to succeed. Other than that, they're not getting scoring from their bottom six. Could I even say bottom nine? It's really realistically just Johnny Gaudreau out there putting the puck in the net. And other than that, they have no identity at defense. They are just all over the place. And I don't think they're really coming up with any type of movement to be able to make a huge switch as we are approaching mid-season for most of these teams going forward. I don't see really any light at the end of the tunnel here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So kind of a big upset seeing them here at the 8th spot. But let's get in. Unless you got one more thing to say about the Blue Jackets, I'd like to get into that 17.
Yeah, one last thing. I just think it's what's really disappointing is that their young talent has not been all that promising. Kent Johnson specifically, 8 goals and 8 assists in 33 games. They just don't look like the prospects they were touted to be, and I think that's the most concerning going forward.
I 100% agree too. And I think with that, though, having these younger guys, you need some identity from your veteran players. And I just don't think they have enough production from those veteran players. Obviously, Goudreau is the only one really pumping in the points. So they're going to struggle in general
Yeah.
until they get a complete reset or somehow find some identity at the blue line just so they can give their goaltender a little bit of breath here and there.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Absolutely.
let's get into the 7th spot. We got Philadelphia. We kind of saw this coming. Let's be real. I don't think there's really much here to talk about. If you want to touch up on anything, go for it. But I'll say my spiel real quick. I think they're just one of those teams that are not really balanced out from their depth chart due to injuries. They're not able to sustain solid play here and there. And I think they're just kind of finding their identity. Do we rebuild? Do we go and sign veteran players? I don't think they realize what their identity is going forward. And I know they have a bunch of young players still, we'll see how they do once they get into the NHL. But as of right now for this season, I don't see them doing much.
Yeah, they're not good, and they weren't projected to be good. This is not a surprise. They had a pretty strong start to the year before they cooled off. I just think that they're not in as bad a spot as maybe we thought they'd be, specifically with Carter Hart having a nice bounce back year, even with a bad defense in front of him. He's putting up a 911 save percentage, 2.89 goals against average. These aren't earth shattering numbers by any means, but with that bad of a defense in front of him, it's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, anytime you're on a bad team and you're constantly outperforming the rest of your team, it says something about your character. And
Absolutely.
he would definitely do a lot better in any other organization in this division. And kind of getting into that, realistically, we were talking about this on the before the show started. You really look at those bottom two player teams, and then you look at the rest of the field. It is so close, left and right.
Hmm.
So we're gonna get into it now. At number 6, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins, and throughout 37 games, they got 44 points. And realistically, they're only 2 games back of the third seed in the division. Wild card, I believe the Islanders hold the last spot, so they're not even that far from there as well. It's really interesting to see how close this division is. And right now, I mean, you can't say that you have a lot of things going wrong, especially if there's games in hand for your organization. And it's so close throughout the bottom of the board. I think the Penguins are always going to be that team hunting around the bottom of the playoffs, either a wild card or the last spot in their division. As long as they got Crosby, Malkin, Letang, all those guys, and they've been doing their job recently. They've gotten a couple good points here and there from some of their lower guys. You can always count on a guy like Jake Gensel, especially if he's playing on one of the top lines. And then I like I like their not Murray, who's their goaltender. I'm forgetting right now.
Tristan Jari.
Yeah, yeah. I think he needs he's been doing all right so
Oh,
far.
he's good. Yeah.
Not nothing tremendous in my point of view, just because of what they have on that team. But I think he's been doing a solid job right now. I think they will be right in the hunt when it comes towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think you look at them and you see they're in sixth place. It looks like it's a pretty bad spot for them, but realistically, 2 and 6 in the Metro are separated by 5 points with no games in hand at all. So I don't think they're in a bad spot at all. It's just how this crumbles right now, and they're solid. They're going to be solid even with Crosby and Malkin a year older. They're still great players. I mean, Crosby has 43 points in 37 games. Still that guy. No one should forget, and they have their depth scoring. Gensel, Raquel, Rust, Carter, Zucker, all having solid years. They've had some injuries. Jeff Petrie was out long term recently, so I think it's just an unfortunate start for them, but they're really hanging around. They're right, pretty much what we thought they'd be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think right now it, this can go anyway. I mean, 1 week can change the complete outlook of this division.
Hmm.
And if you look at the team next on the list, it's the New York Islanders, and this is a team that you had a little bit lower on your preseason rankings and predictions. But it's really interesting to just see how this team came together, especially when we did not think they were going to be close to being where they are right now. And to me, I look at it and I look at the goalies right now. I think they're actually doing pretty decent for
Yep.
splitting here and there. I mean, you've got both goalies in the 9.9 save percentage, averaging around 2.2, 2.6 goals per game. The rotation seems nice and healthy. I think that's huge to start off with. But outside of that, too, I mean, you've got your captain and you've got your star players coming up with some serious points here, and that's your Barzell, your Nelson, your Lee, just doing a really good job.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of the Rangers team from last year. You look at their offense, and it's buoyed by one or two guys and a power play. I don't think their power play is all that good, but it's really their defense and their goaltending that's carrying them. Really, they're in a playoff spot now. I don't really think they're a playoff caliber team. I just think that specifically Ilya Sorokin has been an excellent goalie. He's right now through 29 games he's played. 2.29 goals against average and a 926 save percentage. Those are pretty elite numbers. And even their backup Varlamov in 12 games has a 919 save percentage. So really what's carrying them is what's always carried the Islanders: strong defensive play, strong goaltending, and just enough offense.
I completely agree. And, I think this team too does show some physicality on a consistent basis. And I think that's the reason why they're where they're at right now. I don't know if they'll be able to sustain it as the season goes on. So, once again, they could fall off, they could excel. It really just comes down to how they perform the rest of the season. Kind of a toss up right now to really give a good prediction on where they're going to end up, but we'll see as the season goes on.
Yeah,
Um,
if you ask me, I would think they're the team to start falling off in this division. I think their competition's too tough, and I think they've gotten a little too much puck luck early on this year.
Yeah, it's a good take on there, and I like it. We'll see what happens. Let's get into the next team here. We've got the Washington Capitals, and pretty close to what you had ranked in the predictions. And I think it's kind of just safe to say this team still just they have their core guys play hard every single night. And as long as you have that, you're going to be winning hockey games here and there. Then it just comes down to your bottom six usually. Obviously, Alexander Ovechkin having 47 points in 40 games on the season is huge. He's already got 28 goals. I believe he's third in the NHL in goal scoring, as he always is. And it's just crazy to see, especially him chasing that goal record, which, right now it seems like he'll get it in a breeze in the next couple of
Seems
years.
like it, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy. But looking at the team, they're getting production. They don't have a lot of their players in the minus position, which is great, and I think that's huge, especially from their bottom six. Like I was talking about, it's not like a ridiculous amount where they're almost close to double digits in and their minus selection instead of being in a plus. They're all kind of mid pack right now. They're a physical team led by a big physical captain. So I like this team, and I think they're able to be successful and make the playoffs. The only concern is just these old guys maybe not being able to sustain it and maybe getting injuries down the road.
Yeah, I mean, earlier in this year, it really did look exactly like what you were saying. Their older guys were falling apart, like Oshie and Backstrom, I think, were just not performing like NHL players. And they struggled to start off the year. What's turned them around, I think, is one, Alex Ovechkin. And I mean, I could gush about Alex Ovechkin all day. That dude is such an amazing player. I love watching him play and score goals. It's just amazing. And Evgeny Kuznetsov, since December 1st, he is point per game after a slow start. He's kind of what drives this team offensively. He's a great playmaker, and he's keeping them afloat when, things don't always work out when their former all-star players like Oshie and Backstrom aren't the same guys. Kuznetsov stepping up. Dylan Strome is stepping up. Connor Sheary's playing better. Anthony Mantha kind of hit or miss, but I think is starting to turn a corner a little bit for them. So for me in this team, I don't know if I buy it necessarily, but they're so veteran savvy and they have enough everywhere where they'll at least be dangerous.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough. I think it's the bottom players really putting in goals here. I mean, Lars Eller's got 7 goals. You mentioned Manta; he's got 9 goals on the season.
Mm-hmm.
John Carlson with 8, Johansson with 10. And you've seen some of these guys leave the Capitals and come back, like a guy like Marcus Johansson. You just see that he fits the system. He knows these guys. When he comes back, he can produce on a team like this, and I think that's so good to see that from your bottom players and just know that they can produce at a higher level if they come into this good system. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. I still think age is a little bit of a factor.
absolutely. Yeah.
We'll see what happens in the long run here.
Yeah.
Let's get into the next team. We've got the New York Rangers, I believe. This was a team that a lot of people had, I believe, on the outside as winning this division outright. I believe I was kind of in that conversation saying the Rangers were going to come out right and win. But they are right there. Nothing too crazy to look at and just be like, oh, they're doing terrible for a team that they have. I mean, a lot of people are going to throw noise out at them, but just looking at their stats this season, I don't think it's not terrible for the first half. Let's just put it that way. I think there's a lot to improve, but I mean, let's be real. Panarin, I mean, he's got 44 points. Zibanejad with 43, going to Fox with 38, and you keep on going. It's some solid looks. The only thing is the plus minus for me, it's kind of all over the place,
Hmm.
especially from some of your star players like Artemi Panarin. So I just want to get your opinion. What do you think of the Rangers right now? Do you think this is a troubling team, even though they're ranked third in their division?
I think there's so much untapped potential with this team, and I don't think they're capable of reaching that potential. They have so much talent on this team, and it's just the same story as last year. Kako and Lafreniere don't develop. Panarin and Zibanejad carry the offense, and like you're hoping Igor Shesterkin can bail you out. And Igor Shesterkin's been pretty good this year, but he hasn't been as amazing as last year, which is why they're not as good of a team as last year. They started off abysmally and have started to rebound a little bit, so good for them. But when you look at all this team, even guys like Sammy Blais, who they traded Pavel Buchnevich for, guys like Vitaly Kravtsov, who's been high on, they're struggling to even stay in the lineup, those guys. So when you look at what they can be and what they are, it's really kind of discouraging from a Rangers fan perspective because there's just so much talent. Their big free agent signing, Vincent Trocheck, is putting up decent numbers, 13 goals, 17 assists, but I feel like his chemistry with Panarin is not there at all. So if I'm looking at this team, I think, okay, you have an elite goaltender, you have one of the best players in Artemi Panarin, you have one of the best defenders in Adam Fox, you have this great supporting cast with Trocheck and Zibanejad, who have been awesome. You think, what trades can we make to actually sort this out? They just gave Jimmy VC an extension. He's probably here to stay, and he's been a good depth winger for them. You think maybe we trade Kako and Lafreniere, maybe we trade Philip Hedel, guys like that, and maybe get some more balance to this team, more complementary players to try and make what this team could be, which is an elite team that can compete for cups, into that team, which it's just not right now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear if you look at the New York Rangers. It's crazy to look at their trajectory based on the last couple years. I mean, you
Hmm.
thought when they brought in Capo and Lafreniere that they would be the generation that is going to be winning your cups going
Hmm.
forward. That was their future. Now it seems like their future is now. If they're going to win a cup anytime in the next probably 10 to 15 years, it's got to be now. And I think that's because we see these rumors coming out of them trying to get rid of the first overall pick not too long ago in Lafreniere. I think that right there sends a message to your organization and to your fan base that, hey, we don't have a future right now. We don't have that young talent. We have our guys who are in their prime right now, and they need to win and succeed now. So that's a little shaking for me. I think we're going to see a lot of moves from them when it comes to the trade deadline. I really do. I think this is going to be the year they're going to try and go for it all. And I don't think they're going to leave anything in the tank when it comes for future picks and stuff. I think they're going to waste it all. I don't know if it's going to work out for them, but right now, I think you're so right in the sense of this team is so unbalanced and not really ready with their chemistry on
Hmm.
these lines and certain players that they've acquired in the offseason. I think it's okay though because it's only halfway through the season. I think they're a team that's not going to fall down anytime soon.
Hmm.
I think they're going to go up. So I like where they're at. I think they're fine, but like I said, I think there's going to be a lot to come when it comes to the trade deadline. I don't know if it's going to bump them up to the first place spot in the division. I don't think they're that good enough to turn it around, but maybe you get a 2 seed here.
Yeah, this is honestly such an interesting team to discuss because you think about a couple years ago, they were in every single trade discussion. Jack Eichel's
Absolutely.
available, we could send them Kako, Lafreniere, Kravtsov, whatever. Pick two of the three. Uh, what's his name? Drew Doughty's available. Same package. They were in every single superstar package. Could they get those guys with these players anymore? Probably not. I don't think the league is as high as they were on those guys, and reasonably so. They haven't shown that they can be those guys. So what do you do? Do you settle for less? Do you accept someone like just a typical top six winger, someone maybe from Philadelphia like Kevin Hayes? Do you accept that trade? Do you fire your coach in the hopes that someone else can develop the young guys? I mean, for as much as we praise Gerard Gallant for what he's done with them and given put them in really contention, this is now the third team in a row where he's completely disregarded the youth developments. He did it in Vegas, he did it in Florida, Guys don't develop under him. Do you fire him?
I think it's in the conversation, but you
Mhm.
obviously can't do it right now. You can't do
It's
it until
risky.
the season's over. I mean, because they're just
Mhm.
at that expectation level of being in the playoffs and making a run for it. And you're not going to fire a coach mid-season because you're not developing your young talent right now. I mean, we're in the season. I think
Exactly.
going forward, depending on what happens when they go out of the playoffs, if they make a cup final, that is up for discussion. But yeah, we've seen the trend here before. I I think this is such a bad look for the Rangers, them not dealing with their young talent properly, and
Mhm.
I think it's gonna get them into panic mode, like I've been talking about with going far into these trades when the deadline comes up, and maybe not really thinking it outright in the look of the next 5, 10 years. I think they might screw it up, might be rewarding, they might get a cup. So only time will tell at this point. But right now, if I'm getting drafted by the New York Rangers, I'm hoping that I'm playing right now and getting a ring, rather than waiting in development because I don't like the process that they're going through right
Absolutely.
now. All right,
It's something to monitor.
yeah, let's get into the number 2 point right now, and this one's a shocker to the world. It's not even close, guys. It's the New Jersey Devils. I didn't see this coming at all. I mean, I had them at tops, and I think we had an episode a couple 4 months ago. We were looking at the predictions here, and I had them maybe at 5. Um, this is something else. I haven't seen anything like this. I think it's really crazy to just see how well this team has come together. I mean, look at these points here, guys, from your top players, especially in such a young player, Jack Hughes, with 42 points in 37 games. I mean, this kid still doesn't have NHL muscle yet, and he is putting up points and he's playing like a big physical NHL centerman, which I love to see. And then also Jesper Bratt. I mean, 37 points in 37 games, point per player game. Everything you'd want right there. He's almost at that point per player game. I like what's going on, but to me, it's they've got such a miscellaneous group of people. It's either you got your tough guy in Thomas Tatar, a guy who likes to get in people's faces, or you have the fancy skilled guy in Jack Hughes. It seems like it's so out of balance with different types of people in this group they have, but it seems to be working out for them.
And the biggest thing is that they haven't had their big free agent signing, Andre Palat, pretty much all year. He's played 6 games. And
Yeah.
without them, they're still this good. They were
Hmm.
obviously historic to start the year and they've cooled off a bit. That was to be expected. But it's pretty clear they're legit, right? I mean, we thought they were a couple years away, but the talent was there. They're not a couple years away. They're here now. And Jack Hughes is their guy now. And I don't know what's changed. I don't know if it's just a wonderful, great timing sort of thing where everyone developed at the proper time, or if it's because Andrew Burnett came in from Florida and revitalized their offense. But they're so much fun to watch.
I agree. And just looking at like their lineups here and stuff, it's not like outside of their top 4 players, it's so evenly distributed their
Hmm.
points throughout the entire team, and it seems like each and every night they get a full 110% out of each line. And not always are they scoring goals, but they're wearing out the other team. And then, like I said, it's either physically or it's by skill. It's not a one-sided team. It's not like Seattle, in my opinion, who is just such a physical team throughout the entire board that is dominating you. It's skill, it's physicality, it's young guys, it's older guys. It's just so bizarre for me to watch. Outside of their number one goaltender, I believe Blackwood's their backup still. He's
Hmm.
not having that great of a season if you look at it. So it's just so bizarre to see this team doing really well. I will say though, I'm happy for Lindy Ruff having this success. I think
Good
he's a
for Lindy
great
Ruff.
coach, and I think he's able to take this type of a not really calling it insulting it by saying it's a mess of a team. It's just so diverse. And it seems like they're all coming together and playing hard each and every night. And I love to see it. Didn't see this coming.
Absolutely. We thought Lindy Ruff would be a coach gone in the first couple of months. I mean, that was the expectation, but he's done a great job putting this team together. What's impressed me is their defensive side. Obviously, Dougie Hamilton's a star. We all know that, but their depth, their smaller guys, Jonas Siegenthaler, John Marino, who they got from Pittsburgh in the offseason, Damon Severson, they've put together a pretty solid net front presence to keep their goalie Vitek Vanacek from who they got in the offseason protected, and he's putting together a good season. 911 save percentage, 2.38 goals against. Strong performance from him. I think that's probably the key to all this. It's not just that they have a great offense, it's that their defense is serviceable enough to keep their offense in games.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And looking at the way this team is playing right now, I'll ask you here in a second, but it seems like they just get so much production from someone on your third, your fourth line that decides to go off each and every night. They split it back and forth. I don't see this team just falling off the face of the earth. I know we did a little bit of sneak peek a couple weeks into the NHL season when they were at the top saying, "Hey, do you see them staying up here? Do you believe in them?" I said no. I thought they were going to fall off the face of the earth. They keep proving me wrong. So I will give them all the credit in the world. I think they're a really good foundation team, and I love what they're doing going forward. We'll see what they're able to do when it comes to the important months before hitting the playoffs, but I love watching this team play.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't expect them to make a deep cup run. I mean, cup runs take experience and time, and they don't have that yet. But I think they're a team you have to watch out for, maybe for the next decade in this
Yeah,
division.
yeah. I think it also comes from, older guys in the league. I mean, you got Thomas Tatar there still. I
Yep.
mean, like just a grinding NHL player that's exactly a guy you'd want in your locker room. You'd
Awesome.
hate to play against him, but if he's in your locker room, he's going to show you the physical side. He's going to show you his experience of being a longtime NHLer too. And yeah, when he scores and gets points, he's going to celebrate. He's going to be like, "Yeah, you're going to let me score. It's big news." And it's get these kids all excited. And I can't help but now be like, okay, good for these guys. And I love seeing a struggling team for such a long time slowly start to get rewarded.
Yeah, Tatar's an awesome two-way player. I'm very happy he's having a bounce back year after a pretty rough year last year in New Jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get into the last team here, and we had this pretty much being the
Yep.
first, seed team, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. Once again, having a great season. Not only did they have a great roster last year, they improved it, and one of those players is Brett Burns. I mean, this guy is just everything you want in a defenseman. Just yeah, he's a little bit older, but he'll give you the assists that you need. Big body, just so hard to try and contain him. I believe he's leading the team right now with 23 assists, or maybe he's tied with the team. But he is just that presence you need to sustain and be at the top of this division. So love that addition, and then obviously just their key players, man. I mean, they're doing so well. Whether it's Aho or Svechnikov, they all do really well.
Yeah, I mean, Brent Burns, even at age 37, perfect fit for this team. Just a great addition that they had, even with how many great defenders they have already. Just fits in perfectly. And, the big three, Nietzsche, Svechnikov, and Aho, they just put in great seasons, and it's just so distributed. We mentioned that New Jersey is distributed. This is that times 10. I mean, it's up and down the lineup. Everyone gives people problems. Jesper Fast, Teravainen, and Kotkaniemi. Everyone can score on this team. And so for me, when I look at them, I just think they have such a great chance every single year to go far in the playoffs because they're so structured defensively and they can hurt you in so many different ways. Stars up and down the lineup.
Yeah, and when I look at this team, the one thing you got to be ready for is I think they match the speed of the Colorado Avalanche,
Mm-hmm.
out in the West. I think they're that same style of team, but they just happen to be in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they have to go through some bullies here in the East every year in the playoffs. And they haven't been fortunate to get through yet, but like you said, they're capable of doing it every year. It just comes down to executing it. And right now, I have no doubt in my mind they're going to win this division. They could possibly end up winning the most points in the NHL too. I think it's still up in the air, even though Boston is, ahead, I believe, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to watch. They're always going to be up there, and I think they will be for some time, just based on the roster they have. And it seems like they're a team that they can take on contracts like Brett Burns and players like that every couple years and make it work. So yeah, nothing to worry there by the Carolina Hurricanes. Kind of just looking at the whole division, man, one more time. I think, the only main teams that were really lopsided, I think you go back, you look at the Devils, how we thought they were going to be so bad this year. Just not ready to have that NHL experience and level of play from their young guns. Seeing them come up has been tremendous. The disappointment of the year has got to be Columbus.
Yeah.
I know seeing Johnny Gaudreau do well, but not having his partner Patrick Laine there due to injury for a consistent season, that's unfortunate, and it's really shot them in the foot. Other than that, I mean, you can kind of see that we were pretty much on top of things when it came to the prediction. But I think the most interesting part of it all is how close that 6-1 spot is. It can
Hmm.
really flip over any time throughout this season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think with this division, it's one of the tightest in the NHL, and that's what makes it fun. But 6 through 2 specifically, those those 5 teams are just gonna be flip flopping the entire year. So you can take it whatever you can with this half of the year, but I think it might change going forward. But I do think we are pretty spot on with a lot of our predictions.
Yeah. So job well done, buddy. We're doing well so far. We're gonna end it off with one last segment. We're gonna go through our breakout players of the what do you want to call it? Halfway through the season.
Yeah.
So we'll let you start off. We'll go. We each got a player, and we'll get into it.
So there's a couple guys I really like, but I think my favorite breakout player is Josh Morrissey of the Winnipeg Jets. For a defenseman to come in and halfway through the year, not even, has already exceeded his last year's high point mark. Pretty impressive stuff. I mean, 43 points through 38 games, 7 goals, 36 assists. Last year, he had his career high with 37 points in 79 games. Already beat that. He's just been really, really good offensively. I love what Josh Morrissey has been doing, and it's kind of an indictment on what Paul Maurice was doing last year because you had this great offensive talent on your blue line. Those kind of guys are so rare, and you just weren't letting him expand and be what he could be, which is what he is this year. Really, really love to see Josh Morrissey exceed expectations and become a really solid NHL player.
Yeah, and you know what? The one thing I like about it too is not only are the Jets doing well, they've had some of their key players out due to injury,
Hmm.
and you're going to rely on not just your forwards, but your defensemen to come up and really just come together and make sure you continue those winning streaks. I believe Blake Wheeler's out due to injuries still, and a couple other guys here and there on their top six. So having those guys out, others need to step up. And you even look at the other night,
Wheeler.
Winnipeg comes back and gets a 3-2 win against the Calgary Flames. And like you said, Morrissey, he's got a point in the game. I believe he had 3 shots on goal. It's everything you'd want from a defenseman. I think
Hmm.
he's having a really strong season so far, and I've loved everything I've seen thus far. I think he's going to be able to continue it, though. I think he's really not that type of player to make a huge step back. He's just shown nothing but progress through the first half.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and Winnipeg's been awesome as a result. You look at Connor Hellebuck putting up godly numbers. It's because of what he has in front of him too. I mean, he's always been a great goaltender, but what's in front of him matters just as much. And Josh Morrissey is as big a part of that as anyone.
Yeah, I agree. So realistically, you're looking at his stats right now.
Mhm.
What do you think his overall end of the season is going to look like here? I mean, if he's going to be this breakout player, what does he have to come out with to end a really good season?
They have no reason to slow down. Everything is sustainable and consistent in Winnipeg. I think maybe point for game stretching it a bit, so I'll give him 70 points, 15
20
goals.
points. I like that. I think that's
Yeah,
a right
somewhere around there.
amount, especially for this kid coming up. I mean, he's 27 years of age.
27.
I mean, I think it's everything you want. You're in your prime right then and there. So let's go. I love the pick. I think it's a really meaningful pick too, because he is such an important player on this Jets team and is part of the reason why they're winning so many games.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. All right, well, we're gonna get into my pick here, and obviously, I think we know where we're going with this one. We're gonna go with Tage Thompson here. All right, I can't stress it enough, guys. He had a breakout season last year, but he's doing it again. Again, it is insane watching this guy. Had another hat trick the other night against the Washington Capitals. Just watching this kid play is so special because of how unique his size is and how well he can stick handle and reach around goaltenders and really just deke whenever he wants. He can move a puck 5 to 10 feet and reach in a second, which is insane to watch. You look at his points right now, too. He's got 55 points, guys. 55 points. He's just on that hat trick night, he got to 30 goals in the season. He's on pace right now for 70 goals. I mean, not saying it's going to happen, but that is just absurd. I know there's another guy ahead of him who's named Connor McDavid, who's the best player in all of hockey. I think this is his year and the point where he is right now going to be top five. He's got to be top five player. I think the other thing too is the things he's doing for his line mates. You look at Alex Tuck. You look at Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner, he's 30 years old. I mean, he's up there. Obviously, he's had a couple bad years here and there since signing that massive contract. But now that he's playing with Tage consistently, he's back to where he was when he was with Carolina in that first year of the Sabres. Same goes for Alex Tuck. I mean, Tuck is not really that player who's going to be able to produce and make chances for you. He's going to be the one who's going to capitalize most of the time. And these two just feed off each other tremendously. So seeing that line form and go so well, I think is huge. And the fun fact is Tage is the young one. He's not the experienced guy. I think that's what makes it so interesting this year watching Tage Thompson take another step in becoming a great NHL player.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before the show. Does this count as a breakout? Another one because he had a breakout year last
Gotta
year.
be.
It
It's gotta be.
absolutely does. I mean, last year he was scoring goals using his big body and to be a net front presence. Sort of bully his way into goals. That's not what he is this year. This year he's deking dudes out and creating chances off the rush. At 6'6", it's terrifying for opposing defenses. I think this is a superstar in the making. He's absolutely been a top 5 player this year. And if you're Buffalo, you have to feel really, really good about what you have here in Tage Thompson.
Yeah. And you know what? I think also the other reason this guy is a breakout player is a lot of people don't see it. But this guy has gotten so much better at his defense game too. He uses his body all over the ice, no matter what zone he's in, and that is really the game changer. If there was a statistic for a player taking away a scoring chance on another opposing teammate, I mean that is where he would excel. It doesn't matter if it's a play on the boards or open ice. I mean, just the way he uses his body against other players is insane. I've never seen anything like it from a big man in my lifetime. So it's something special to watch. And yeah, I'm going to say it. It's another breakout season for Tage Thompson.
I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's super fun doing these episodes. I love that we're able to come up with some more content, twice a week. And, if you guys have any suggestions, leave it in the comment section. We'd love to,
Absolutely.
interact with you guys and come up with different topics each week. But other than that, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Sam, you got anything for the people?
Connor McDavid is now having 73 points in 39 games, which is a little under 1.9 points per game. So, in other words, he's a bum.
Yeah, right, right. And I'll tell you what, man. I mean, watching him play is something special. But kind of real quick, let's go back to it. Ovechkin. I mean,
Mm,
28 goals, dude, at his age right now, and he's chasing it. He's gonna get the record.
yeah, it looks like it.
I have no doubt in it now.
I mean, if he's still scoring 50 a season, it's going to take 2 more years.
Oh, 100%. That's it.
That's it.
Literally, that's it. He's on pace right now, I think, to score like 60 something. I
That's
mean, and the
ridiculous.
thing is, even though Tage Thompson's on point to score 70 and Ovechkin's on point to score 60, I don't doubt that Ovechkin will get to 60. I can totally see it happening. So
Absolutely.
I love it. I think it's great for the game. Yeah, we'll see what happens down the road here. But once again, guys, thank you for joining us. And if you have any comments, leave them there, and we'll tune in to you guys next time.
See you guys.